Today I'm here for a much anticipated review on Write by Number, a writing curriculum. Hey everyone, I'm Sarah from Homespun Childhood. I am a teacher turned homeschool mom of 3. I share things related to homeschool, literacy, curriculum, and more. Today I am diving into a much anticipated review on Write by Number. This is a 1 through 12 writing program by Lorena Townsend, who is a former English teacher. So we're going to jump into this program. I am going to walk you through mostly the student book, which is a hardback textbook in this case, and I'll do some of the teacher book. There is different material in the 2 books, so you do need both of the books. However, if you choose to use this program, this is really considered to be a program you just use all of your education career. So let us start with Write by Numbers teacher book, and then we'll jump into the student book. All right, folks, so here is the teacher book. This is the spiraled version. Y'all, the materials themselves are just gorgeous and very high quality. If you're somebody who is into that kind of thing. The pages are like super thick, heavyweight paper, and there's lots of shadow. All right, I'm doing the best with the lighting that I have, y'all. I hate light boxes. I know, I should use them. So here is the table of contents. This program is broken into different stages. Okay, we have stage 1 through stage 12. These are not correlated to a grade level. This is not like first grade, stage 1, second grade, stage 2, blah, blah, blah. Then we have this introduction. On the Write by Number website, you're going to find a lot of detailed videos about how to use this program. You can also get a sample for free that you can use for, I think, 2 weeks. So we have an introduction about teaching writing, about how she knows this method works. We have frequently asked questions. One of the things I really like in here is that she has these questions about, can I use Write by Number with my current language arts curriculum? The short answer is yes. It's not tied to a school year. It's not tied to anything. And then can I use just parts of it? Also, yes. Is this going to add another thing to my day? These are like great questions. We also have a nice editing guide. And then we have our scope and sequence. So you will see that each stage comes down here, and then we have another chart right here. And this side of the chart is showing us the writing structure, the writing appearance. So in the stage 1, our writing structure is the sentence level, and we're working on our topic sentence or the first power sentence. The appearance of a writing is space between words and letters, upper and lowercase letters, observing the margins, writing neatly. And then in the stage 1 grammar, we're talking about complete sentences, all grammar needed for correction, and then usage and mechanics. I love that grammar is fully integrated in here as a function. The whole point of grammar, y'all, is so that our sentences make sense. Thinking about syntax, right? How does this make sense? When we are teaching children grammar all by itself, not tied into the things we're actually writing, it's ineffective. It doesn't work. It's not a good use of your time. Memorizing parts of speech, doing grammar worksheets, and then not actually talking about the grammar in your own writing does not help your child. The whole point of grammar instruction is to improve writing quality. So it makes sense to have it embedded. So I really like that the grammar is embedded in here as it relates to the sentence structure or the paragraph or essay that they're being taught. And then we have usage and mechanics over here. So you'll see we do teach real grammar in here, right? We've got appositives, adverbial clauses, we've got noun clauses, predicate noun phrases, all the grammar is here, but it's also related to the varying your sentence patterns and writing paragraphs, all that jazz. All right. Then we move into stage 1. So stage 1, all the stages are set up the same way in the teacher manual and the student manual in terms of the structure of what's on the printed page. So we have our overview. We go over the goals, the objectives, the readiness. To begin this stage, the student should be able to sit long enough to complete a task, handwrite, spell phonetically, comprehend writing instruction, and repeat a task. We have an assessment, but this is really just like informal assessments. These aren't, formal standardized tests. We have differentiation, and we have cross-curricular integration. If you want your Common Core standards, they are here. The teacher resources are really just going to pull things from the Write by Number program itself. And then this is the student book. Then we turn the page and we get this very interesting chart situation. So throughout the rest of the book, student book and teacher book, we have these columns in the margins. These are cueing you to know what we are teaching and how it relates to the big picture. This is how my brain works. So seeing this in a curriculum is kind of just like, I love this. I love the coordination. I love the color setup. This is very visually appealing. It's not loud, bright, and in your face, but it does give you important information. It's great. So the way this is set up is we're going to go through different paragraph structures. This one is highlighted because this is the one that we are going to be introducing. Once it's been taught, it stays highlighted like that. But we still have all these other paragraph structures we're going to learn. And then we have paragraph variations, we have essay structures, we have first power paragraph themes, we have third power paragraph functions, and we have essay outlines. That will make more sense in a minute. Over here, we have our different sentence types, and there will be 38 different sentence types that they are taught. This is a systematic and explicit program. You do not get more systematic and explicit than this. We have a nice summary here. We have our goal, the brief part, and then detailed out a little bit more for us. We have our first power sentence examples. Okay, the names of these things can be a bit of a mouthful, and sometimes I trip over my words, so that bothers my son when I'm explaining it to him, and I'm sure it will bother you. I know 2 people. I have 2 toys. My mom said 2 things to me. You're going to notice a theme here, the number word 2. Yep. Then we have a how to teach. For each stage, you have 3 jobs. Make sure your students understand the lesson. Edit the assignments, record the grades. These are like not grades. Modify that how you need to. Then we have a section on dependent learners. Students at this ability level will use whatever writing paper they use for their handwriting practice. They may use pencil or pen. Read through the student book with your students, and then if needed, use the script to guide your students through the first assignment. So they do have scripts in here for you. We talk about dependent learners and having them write a power sentence every day. And then there's a section on independent learners. So students at this ability level will use a dedicated write by number notebook. Okay, so you're able to differentiate this based on your child. If you're using this program with 2 different kids, 2 different ages, one might be more independent, they might need more help and support, and the other might be more independent. So we're still in this first power paragraph structure. We have our stage 1 assignment. Your teacher will tell you how many sentences to write or how long to work on this activity. The stage 1 student sample is here for you. I saw 2 trees and on the car ride home. You'll notice this was edited to say TWO2 instead of TO2 and then rewrite it. They have a section on worksheets that might help. These are grammar and mechanics based worksheets that are found in the appendix. Back here. Okay. Evaluation and an evaluation checklist. Does the first word of the sentence start with a capital letter? Are the capital and lowercase letters formed correctly? Etc., etc. When to move on to stage 2. Every stage has this section about how you know when to move on. The assignment can be completed without frustration. Errors in grammar, punctuation, and spelling are minimal. Every sentence ends with proper punctuation, okay? Then we move on to stage 2. Stage 2, we're going to be introducing a little bit more. We're introducing the second power sentence, and now we have another paragraph structure. We have the 1, 2, 2 structure. This is our first power sentence, and then we have 2 second power sentences. This sounds a lot of jargon. It makes sense once you get into it. So again, our summary and our goals, we have an example. I know 2 people. First, I know my mom. Second, I know my dad. That's a whole paragraph. And then 2 more examples. Differentiation is in here and your checklist. I'm going to move over into the student book in just a second, but I want to continue to show you that we have student examples in here, including students with special needs, when to move on. One thing I like is that the program explicitly talks about grammar, so teach students to incorporate grammatic knowledge into their writing. Most grammar is taught outside of the context of writing. Grammar becomes mere fact, and for most students, the information about grammar does not inform their writing. They continue to write like they talk, and grammar information is reserved for passing tests. Write by number seeks to make grammar immediately applicable to the writing. Yes, thank you. One of the things you'll notice too is that in the first couple of stages, the student is expected to rewrite a paragraph in its entirety when it's incorrect. This is when we're doing short-ish paragraphs, okay? But that does change, and you can change that and modify it for your child as needed. Once we get to stage 6, they are now just erasing their mistakes. The idea behind having them not erase and just completely rewrite their paragraphs that are incorrect or have mistakes in them is that it forces kids to really focus when they are writing so that they don't have to rewrite it. Put all that effort in the first time and you won't have to redo it again. The book continues to go through different variations. We're going to jump over and switch gears for a minute and look at the student book, and we're going to bounce back and forth. So here is the Write by Number student textbook. This is, traditional kind of textbook feel to it. It has a table of contents. This is written to the student. Keep in mind, this program is intended for students of all grade levels, and so, you might need to read this to your student if they are on the younger level. A first power sentence, we're going to go through what that first power sentence is. In the student book, we have examples. In the worksheets that might help, we have the same color coding over here. We have nice annotated examples for the student about how to do the assignment. More examples in here. Checking your assignment, a complete checklist. Again, if you have a dependent learner, a child who is on the younger side, you might need to help them make a checklist for themselves. It's a little bit simpler, maybe something like the COPS checklist where you write COPS and it's capitalization, organization, punctuation, and spelling, but then also go through this with them. Why rewrite instead of erase? And then we move into the 1-2-2 paragraph for stage 2. We're talking a little bit about outlining here, what this looks like. So we have our first power, that's like our topic sentence, and then 2 supporting sentences. For example, I have 2 toys. First, I have a doll. Second, I have a ball. We're teaching students these second power signal ideas. These are words we can use in those second power sentences to signal to the reader what's coming. Start each sentence with an ordinal number like first and second. Okay, lots of examples here. The examples have been really helpful for my son. He really likes that they have examples. And again, we have the worksheets listed in here if your child needs help on different aspects of the mechanics for this. Assignment, here's a written sample, and then check your assignment. Okay, moving into the 1, 2, 3, 2, 3 paragraph. This is a paragraph that includes 3 different types of sentences, power sentences. We have our first one, our second, and our third. So a topic sentence, then that idea, the supporting details, and the next idea, the supporting details. We have our third power signal ideas, different examples here, and you'll see in our highlighted box over here, we have the 1, 2, 3, 2, 3 paragraph. Now we have taught the different ones, and the one we're currently working on is a little bit bolder than the first 2. Okay, more examples. Checking our assignments. We move into different types of paragraphs, paragraphs without the word there. We have another stage that's paragraphs without to be. And then we move in eventually, at stage 6, when we get to our sentence patterns. So introducing sentence patterns. Okay, so in stage 6, we're starting to talk about different types of sentence patterns. So now we're going to be writing in this paragraph structure, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, using specific sentence structures. So the first one is going to be sentence pattern number 1, use a vivid active verb. Okay, ideas for vivid active verbs. Some sentence pattern 1 examples. Lots of examples, and then we begin our assignments with our lessons. So stage 6, lesson 1, write 1 sentence pattern number 1 in your notebook. Have your teacher edit it, then write it correctly. Here are some examples for more assignments. Okay, then we move on to sentence pattern number 2, asking a question. We have the pro tips in here. We have more examples. Moving in to different sentence structures here. So within stage 6, we move through 6 different sentence examples. Eventually, we get to stage 7, and instead of having that first power sentence where we had to have the number word 2, now we're going to have the number word 3. And so instead of a 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, now we have a 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3 paragraph. So our topic sentence, that includes the number word 3. I know 3 things about Venezuela. I don't know. Then your next sentence, your number 2, is going to tell us one of those things in a detail. Second, in a detail. Third, in a detail. When we get to stage 8, going to jump over here for a second. Okay, this is the teacher manual again. We're going to jump to stage 8. Whoops. We're going to look at stage 8 in the teacher manual and then stage 8 in the student book. So again, we have our overview with our goals to vary the location and frequency of the first power sentence, new ways to organize sentences and combine sentence patterns in order to convey information in an interesting way. We have our objectives. We have differentiation, cross-curricular integration is pointed out in each of these. It's the same thing that's written there. But essentially, this program, because it does not tell you the content you write with, means that you can integrate it across everything very easily. In fact, once you start doing this, you'll start noticing things in your content areas where it's like, tell back 2 things about blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, wait, that can be a write by number assignment. Tell me 2 things you learned about blah, blah, blah. And you'll start seeing it everywhere. So here we are. We are going to be teaching the different paragraph variations in here. So we're still talking here about summary, and then we begin our first paragraph variation. Editing variation A. It's going to call for students to end their paragraph with the first power sentence. So now we're moving our first power sentence to the end. There's examples in here about how to teach this, assignments for teaching it, and then we're teaching another variation. Editing this variation is fairly easy because the students already have mastered putting a first power sentence first and putting a first power sentence last. Keep in mind this variation, we are laying groundwork for interesting introductory paragraphs and concluding paragraph essays. And therefore, students should practice bringing in attention-getting openers, mic-dropping endings, and clever ties between the 2. So we're setting them up earlier. We're scaffolding this so that when we get to the essays, we already have this skill down. And then we have another variation, and another one with different assignments and examples within it. We're also adding more sentence patterns in as we go. Okay, open with a present participle phrase, opening with a present infinitive phrase. So again, we have the grammar is tied in, and we have different examples for why we're doing this, and then the incorrect and the correct ideas. When to move on to stage 9, stay at this stage until all the assignments are completed correctly. Some of these stages will tell you that you might stay in a stage for months or years. Just so you know, this is not like, all right, I'm gonna move through all of this in one school year and we're gonna be writing. No, this is like years and years and years and years and years. Unless you have an older student, in which case you move through it at the appropriate pace and you get them where they need to be. Okay, so let's look at the stage 8 in the student book. All right, here we are, stage 8. Okay, paragraph variation and sentence patterns 13 through 19. So in stage 8, you're going to continue to write 7-sentence paragraph while learning to move your first power sentence to different locations in your paragraph. You will be learning 5 variations. Here we go. You'll be learning all these other sentence things. Here is an example. When you write this, so there are directions. Variation A, paragraph examples for your student. The assignments. B, and assignments. C, examples, assignments. D, examples, assignments. E, examples, assignments. And then we move into our sentence patterns 13 through 19. So you will note that in their samples, when we're using the different sentence patterns, they're going to start to color coordinate them to match your sentence type over here. So if your sentence type was purple, number 4, then over here, purple, number 4, and then number 4. This is really cool. Some kids don't need this. I think it's awesome. Okay. Pro tips, sentence formation examples, etc., etc. Let's jump to, here, I'm just going to flip through so you can see some of the color coordinating still going on. So stage 9 moves into different essay types. When we look over on the side here, we have our paragraph structures, our paragraph variations, and now we're beginning to dive into the different essay structures. And the numbers here, the 1, 2, and the 2 and the 2 are referring back to our power sentences up here. Continuing with the examples and different lessons and assignments within each lesson. This again is the student book that we are in. Who and whom, so talking about some grammar here. Use a restrictive adjective clause. Again, we're still doing the color coding to match the sentence types over here. Student examples, sample usage. We have a pro tip here on grammar. Noun phrases that start with that are often mistaken for restrictive adjective clauses, so really diving into the grammar here. And then if we fast forward a little bit to stage 10, we're going to move into different themes. So essays expanded and sentence patterns over there. And so we're adding some more sentence patterns until we fill up this chart here. And now we're also starting to add some variations for the first power paragraph theme. So the first theme is use a quotation. And then we have interrogate, scenario, conflict, hook and reel. So different ways of bringing in voice and style to our writing, but still teaching that in an explicit and systematic way. I really have not seen this level of instruction broken down this explicitly and systematically. Like this is great. So moving through all those different power paragraph themes over there, and we're still adding on different sentence structures. Okay, then we move to the next section in stage 11 where we're adding on the third power paragraph themes. And so this is when we're giving an example of a paragraph that illustrates a point, a paragraph that has an opposing view and proves it wrong, and a third power paragraph that gives further information about ideas in a second power paragraph. So we're gearing up here for different types of essays. This is really appropriate for, high school level writing where we're really starting to dig into these different types of writing pieces that might be required of a, high school or college level student. And so we really want students prepared for whatever job they might choose or field of education they might choose after high school. And so being able to write from all these different angles is really important. Again, we have varying essay structures over here. Okay, more sample usage. And then in stage 12, the final stage, we have essay construction. And this is where you're going to learn different outlines for different types of writing. So we have expository writing, and then we'll be looking at the 5 common essay formats to help explain something. So argumentative, compare, contrast, cause and effect, demonstrative, and narrative. Like breaking down what these different possible types of expository writing pieces are and what they look like, how we do that. We have outlining here, applying it and brainstorming before we write it. This is really helpful for students scaffolding out how to actually construct these essays. I think a lot of times students enter college and maybe they didn't have explicit writing instruction and they're given an essay where it's, a compare and a contrast or a cause and effect or, finding proof of something and arguing your point, and they don't even know where to begin and format it, and they get stuck. And while yes, we might have AI helping us in the future, it's still important to actually know what the information is so that when you're feeding things into AI, for example, you know when it's spitting back something appropriate or inappropriate. So having that broken down for us with different examples and showing how we're weaving in all these different skills that we've been taught throughout. So this program is really meant to build upon itself as it gets more complex so that your students, if they've been working on this, in the elementary school, by the time they get to high school, they've already practiced so many different sentence types and paragraph parts that weaving in these types of sentences over here is like a no-brainer. And if they find their writing is sounding boring, they can say, oh, hey, let me just go and see what some of these are and I can try those out. Compare and contrast essays, outlines for compare and contrast, simple essay, cause and effect, okay, narrative essays, introduction, construction, really working at that essay level, talking about conclusions, and then they move into the appendices in here as well. Quick reference for stage 6, stage 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. A glossary of terms, and that is the student book. If we flip back to the teacher guide for a minute and we go to stage 12 in here, again, we're still on that essay outlining. And they have fast track. So if you're working with a high school student who maybe hasn't had formal writing instruction, this is really nice because you can cruise through this, fast track it, but still be systematic and explicit and get the instruction in a shorter amount of time. Okay, evaluation checklist here, and then into the appendices, which are the same as the textbook, except we have the answers in here. So who is this program for? Great question. I think this is a fantastic program for somebody who has seen the writing revolution perhaps and likes the look of it, but doesn't know how to implement it. Who looks at IEW and thinks, well, that's systematic and explicit, but it looks too formulaic. This, to me, is kind of a in-between where we have the flexibility to teach it through whatever content we want, to fast track it, to slow pace it, and still use this as a systematic, explicit approach to writing. If you like TWR type stuff and you feel overwhelmed with implementing it, this brings in the step-by-step implementation, big picture, right? So we are using this. I will continue to use this. I think this is great. My son really enjoys the way this is broken down, the systematic part of it and the explicitness of it. He likes the color parts on the sides. The outlining makes sense to him. We're also going to be using IEW because I feel like that's going to move him into different types of writing at the 3rd grade level that he won't be ready for in here. So, you know, with this, we're going to get a couple of stages in. He won't be ready for some of the older stages just because he's not going to be ready for it, which is fine. But I still want him working on writing, and I really need something laid out for me this year. I don't want to do a lot of DIY. I just don't have time for it. Can I do it? Absolutely. Do I want to do it? No. So all of that said, I think this can be standalone if you want standalone. Maybe you're doing creative writing through Brave Writer. Maybe you're doing creative writing through something else. Maybe your child is really into writing on their own, but you want to cover your bases. This will help you with that, okay? Maybe you have been working on IEW or EIW for a number of years and want to change it up. This is a great resource to pull in because you can use it again and again and again and come back to it. It is expensive, but if you're looking at it from we're going to work in and out of this for years. Sorry, there's dinner cooking. Working in it. This is comical, y'all. Real life. Working in and out of this for years. This is fantastic. So my plan, there's just so many noises. This is why I don't get videos up, you guys. My plan is to use this for both my rising first grader and my 3rd. He's yelling at the dog to ring the dog doorbell. This is where we're at. My plan for this upcoming school year is to use this alongside IEW because I really like how easily this allows me to integrate it into the content areas. It's very different from IEW in some ways, and in other ways it complements it really nicely. So that's what we're doing. Is that extra? Absolutely. Is this a program that I would recommend to families? Absolutely. So that sums up Write by Number. This program might feel overwhelming at first, but the more you use it, the more you start seeing this in the actual things that you're reading and working on with your student. There'll be a number 1 power sentence that uses the number word 2, and you're like, oh, hey, it's right there. And then your kid starts to notice it too, and they're like, wow, this really is like how people write. And that's kind of magical to see that. If you have questions about Write by Number, drop them in the comment block below. Feel free to reach out to me on Instagram or email me and let's get chatting. This is something that I will be using over the next year. So if you are really curious about how I'm using this and implementing it and how I'm using it in conjunction with IEW, follow along over on Instagram, homespun.childhood. If you found this helpful, please go ahead and like this video and subscribe, and I will see you next time.